there's a pie chart that I'm going to share with you that shows from 2009 to 2010 how much, and I call it unassigned cash we've had in our budget. In 2009, 80% of the budget, 80% of the school division budget was salaries and wages. 80%. So everything else that had to be done in that budget was 20%, which was roughly around $60 million. Utilities, gas prices, instruction, anything else that had to be done was in that 20% slice of that pie, okay, which was $60 million in 2009, which was at the height of the recession. Right now, that slice is down to 14%, which is $42 million. And the reason that slice keeps getting smaller is because anytime we have priorities that have to be met, and we're asked, why can't you pay for it out of your budget? That slice that gets smaller and smaller and smaller of our budget that we have to do everything else with. And if you continue to look at the budget being more constrained, okay, there are going to be things that we can't move on, new initiatives, those things that we talk about visioning forward. Those monies will eventually be allocated for those things within our budget. So I would definitely be hesitant to put those monies into salaries and benefits because you don't get that money back. You just continue to tighten that budget up. And when it's time to take on those new challenges or those new initiatives that we're talking about, we can't partner as well with you because we've cut down any resources that we have in our budget to allow us to do that.
You gave the percentage, but you didn't give the dollar.
Dollar amount was roughly 5.3.
No, no, you say as the pie gets smaller.
42 million dollars. 42.8 million. So it went from 60 down to 42.8, and we're in a better economy right now, and a larger budget.
But you're in a larger budget, but you didn't have those two line items either for cash capital either. So I'm just saying when we talk about collaboration and working together, if you all have now added two line items, the cash, those things that you're talking about.
Where the money came from for the cash capital is through items that you mentioned that you wanted to see in our budget, through attrition, through unbudgeted positions, if we can't fill positions, unspent line items.
Okay.
Now what happens, just like with the city budget, if at the end of the year, let's say if we fill all of our positions one year, we have a great year and we fill 100% of our positions, then we may not be able to do everything in that cash capital that we have because we're estimating what we would accomplish if we did not have that revenue available. So it can be cut if needed. But we still allocate in our budget because traditionally we've had about 1.7 to 2% of our budget that we could allocate to capital needs and to technology. And you wanted to see it. I'm doing exactly what you asked me to do.
That's fine. I don't.
Okay. So you wanted to see that money in our budget, and we're providing for it. We're also what I also wanted to point out here was we mentioned that the state gave us $16 million in additional revenue. Part of that revenue is unrestricted, like lottery funds. Part of that money is restricted for a specific purpose. So it's not $16 million of just flexible cash. Okay. So when we look at what were our needs over the biennium, I'd be happy to. This is what the part I wanted to answer that day. I was hoping someone asked me that question. So if we received $16 million over the biennium, did our needs exceed $16 million? And what were those needs? So I think I owe it to the council to make sure you're aware that some things, it costs more sometimes to operate at the same level than you used to. 5 years ago, fuel prices were probably much lower than they are right now. So even if you're operating with the same budget, your needs continue to increase. So what were the needs in total over that biennium? When we look at fuel costs, okay? Fuel costs increased over that biennium $1.1 million. Okay? New Horizons, where we send our students for workforce development. Okay? It's not stable. Newport, that's increased over $700,000 over the biennium. So there's some costs that we're going to have that we have not as much flexibility over. And when we think about it, our total needs when we add up the dollars was $27.9 million over that biennium. We cut the number of positions that you saw. We decreased line items. We reduced the school division's budget to lower that number down to $2.4 million, which is the request that we have before you today.
The question that I also have, and thank you all for doing what we asked you to do, but I still have some concerns about the cash capital. That's one thing, and you've explained it, and I have to muse on that and pray about it. But the other thing is, I didn't hear you say where, and I know you all are looking at for your healthcare costs, what percentage of, are you looking that your employees will pay into that? Are they, as premiums increase, are you all causing them to pay into the system more so that, so that you all are not carrying the whole crux of it? I don't know. And so I didn't hear that. I heard you were looking at different plans, but I didn't hear specifically what the outcome of that is going to be as far as what their input is going to be.
When we've had increases in healthcare, the cost has been passed on to our employees instead of the school division. Right now, we pay much less into healthcare premiums than the city's plan does. The city does. So in order to offset the cost, not passing that cost on to employees, we are recommending to increase the school division's burden on in healthcare to not increase employees. They pay a much higher percentage for their healthcare than city employees do at this current time. Now, under a new plan, we may make some adjustments. The plans may be more affordable. We may see some savings there, and under the next plan, we may be able to make some different adjustments. We may be able to pay a larger percentage based on the premium, if it's within the reasons of the dollars that we have budgeted. But at this particular time, because we have continued to ask employees to pay more into health care, we're recommending that this time we take on the burden of the cost instead of passing that on to employees. I'll be happy to show you the comparison between what we pay in, the school division pays in percentage in premium versus what the city pays and what their employees pay compared to school division. We pay a significant amount more on our employees, for our employees. And we also took the time to go back and look at, we are fortunate we use the same actuaries, am I correct?
Same consultant.
We use the same health insurance consultant as the city, so we've also inquired whether our plans were significantly more expensive than the cities, and we were told that the city has a more robust plan than the school district does.
Thank you.
At this point, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have, and if I have time. And I think you've asked some good questions, or I'll be happy to get some additional information to you. I've heard something about the health insurance, cash capital, and other things. But I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. I believe that we put together a responsible budget that meets the needs of our school division in the current state that we are right now. I don't believe that you can continue to operate paying the same amount for it because services continue to increase. And if you're going to do something, it requires that you may do more. We can't continue to put this to look at level funding and say that we're going to be able to continue to always be progressive and continue to meet the needs of students and build a progressive school division if we're not willing to invest in that process.
Well,
so,
as you state that, and I thank you for sharing that, but my concern is, if we have how many unaccredited middle schools, and 2. How long have they been unaccredited?
2 or 3.
Where are we? I want to know what we're doing about that,
because
part of the issue, and I just know that part of the issue that we have with getting people to come to Newport News is the school system. Okay, so so if we're still in this quandary of trying to get our middle schools accredited and they're not yet, what is being done? How come?
There you go.
I mean, so what are you all doing?
I'm right there with you.
So you're asking for more,
yeah.
But if I give you more, does that mean our schools are going to be accredited? Come on, work with us.
Well, we've talked about improving grade 3 rating. We've talked about changing our curriculum. We've talked about adding the teachers and support areas that we're talking about. The accreditation process has changed now to subgroups, so the game has actually changed. Okay. You'll need behavioral support for chronic absenteeism and attendance. You'll need the curriculum changes to build a more robust curriculum. Okay. So I guess the details that I was given is the what behind improving schools. Okay. We need to continue with funding the things that we need in order to do those things. I was at a state delegate last night, was presenting, and he said that any business who comes to an area now, they ask 2 questions. What's the status of your schools, and how well are you preparing? So it's to our benefit to ensure that all of our schools are fully accredited. We have a plan to do that. But what we can't do is create something that we don't have the resources to do.
But Dr. Parker, before you came, we were here. You've been here. Thank you. You haven't been here long. But what have we done that we're still in this state of affairs, that we have realtors that won't bring people to Newport News because of our school system, even before you were here? So I'm not putting this on you.
Oh, I totally
and I'm not putting it on any particular persons or persons. I'm just saying, and because you have more does not mean that you're gonna do better.
True.
I'm just sorry, that's just not the case.
True.
That is not the case.
But I can strategically show you.
But if the case is our children, then the focus needs to be on our children, not necessarily, if I pay you more, it doesn't mean that you're gonna do better. That's just not the case.
Right.
If I give you more time, that doesn't mean that you're gonna do a better job. That's not the case either. So let's really talk facts. That's just not true. Because if that's true, then we would have all accredited middle schools. If every time we need money to raise, excuse yourself, as many times as you get a raise and we still got the same conditions that we have, that's not telling me that we have made any progress.
I agree.
So I'm just sharing with you openly, transparently, that you ask, not you, but if you ask for something, then show me the results of that to tell me that what we're doing works and it's worth it for you to invest, not in the teacher, but in the child, because this is about our children. This is about, and I teach, and I know you can't put a value on what I give to my students. I will give you all of me, because I believe in my students, and you don't have to worry about paying me, because I'm gonna do it because I love my students and I love my job. That's what I'm gonna do. So that's my heart and that's my passion. So as an educator, you can't come to me and tell me if you pay me more, I'll do better. That's not true. I do it because it's my heart and it's my passion to do it.
I agree.
So that's where I am with all
I
of
agree
this.
with everything you said.
That's where I am with all of this.
I agree with everything you said. But I can't sit here 3 years from now and you ask me that same question and I say woulda, coulda, shoulda. I need the resources now to get the work done. And I'm defining exactly for you what I need to do to get the work done.
Okay.
If you want your schools fully accredited, if you want a great reputation for Newport News Public Schools, then buy into the vision that I'm giving you for the school division. We just talked about your return on investment already. We're probably leading the state in on-time graduation and dropout. Now, why are we doing that? Because a while back you invested in graduation coaches.
Yes.
And now you lead the state in dropout prevention and on-time graduation. That is return on investment. If you want all the middle schools, then we need to focus on reading, and we need to focus on assessment, and we need to focus on curriculum.
Yes.
But we also need to focus on professional development and quality teachers, and we need to retain them once we train them. So I'm all for being held accountable. I love accountability because I can do the work, and my staff can do the work. But when I say I need the resources, if you want that to happen and you want it to be so passionately about the students here, let's not put barriers between success because of dollars.
I'm not going to say, I don't think we're putting barriers there. I think there are barriers that are being placed there because of dollars, and that should not be the case.
I agree.
That should not be the case.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other questions?
I do. I do. As I'm looking at the letter, and I know it was in some of your documents, because I know when we talk about budgets, not only the schools, we have our departments, public work. Everybody's coming with their wish list. Or their necessities to help make their department run, which in turns make our city run. Okay, but in the ideal world, everybody can get funding. But you've been in government, we've all worked in business, usually that's not a reality. So you look at things you can, cut or maybe not do as much. And as I'm reading this, that really sounds disturbing, as 60% of Newport News Public School students qualify for free or reduced lunch, and children living in poverty are more likely to have experienced trauma. Mental health services are vital to minimizing behavior disruptions affecting teachers and learning. But, and the disturbing part is, it just seems like that should be some other data, because nobody's ever going to make me think that just because somebody gets free lunch that they have mental problems.
And again, I would say there's research to support that there are issues with trauma in our communities of low socioeconomics. There's a lot of research to support that. I'll be happy to share some of that with you and to identify some. I'm not saying every kid. I was a kid who lived in at or below poverty. I didn't have. I think I turned out okay.
Yeah, and I want to make sure.
So what I'm saying, I don't think that's the case. We're not putting
that out there. That to get in kids' minds that, right, well, I get free lunch, so I'm mentally ill. And secondly, as we look at that section and we talk about wanting to get teachers, I know there is a relationship with our Community Services Board, and I don't have all the data, but I know when I talked to Natalie, she said, Dr. Ward, she was saying that they can charge Medicaid for some of the service to the kids. So would that be, could we look at that?
We are.
As far as not being able to, you know, if there's an adjustment in the budget, or if we could adjust because you can't get everything you want, could that be something to look at?
I applaud the Community Services Board for increasing their partnership with us. They'll put some of those resources in our elementary schools this year where they can meet with parents and students instead of having to go all the way to Hampton to do that. They're doing that free of charge, and they're doing that out of the goodwill that we've asked. That we said we have kids and families in need, and they're assisting us in meeting the needs of those. But with that being said, we still need more licensed support in our schools to meet the needs of our students. They will not be able to fully meet our needs. They're serving Hampton as well. They do have therapeutic day treatment, but those counselors are specifically for behavioral issues, and they're usually Medicaid eligible students.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
I have a question. Your on the online budget as of the end of February showed a surplus of $4 million. And you're saying you're going to take that and put it in cash capital, or when I was on the school board, you know, and I know because I've got the Code of Virginia right here that says any surplus has to be given back to the, you know, the body that funded it. And I know that always happened, I understand, until 2014. And I understand that that's one of the scenarios that's been offered, that if you return that, then we would reallocate it for salaries. Now, we can't designate because, but I'm going to see if we can't change that, as I spoke with you when we met, because we have given, and I think the presentation last year was incredible. We have given every year without, you know, so much money is increased every year. And in this budget right here, the general budget we had the last time, when our last meeting, and the total school budget went from 304.9 to 314 million, and that's a 3.1% raise in our budget. You know, that maybe it not have all of it coming from us, but from the state. But with this, I guess I'm asking why we couldn't work with that to make that 4 million part of you know, what you use to pay these teachers.
I think that's a good question. And again, I go back to that graph I'll share with the council that shows that from 2009 to the current day, our budget has decreased in the unassigned revenue. And we say unassigned lightly because you have to pay utilities, you have to pay gas, you have to pay all the other things, everything else. 14% when it used to be 20%, which was $60 million. If we continue to be asked to supplant salaries and benefits in our current existing budget without growing the budget, we run the risk of having a budget that's so tight that we can't take care of any of the other priorities that we have emerging. We'll have to find a way to meet the needs of these subgroup students. Some of those methods and procedures are not even identified. Some of those resources are not identified yet. So we'll have to find the monies to meet the needs of a growing ESL population. So that some of those things that we could take care of in our budget eventually, we're as we continue to look at how we're serving students, if we continue to put those dollars and not grow our budget and put those dollars into salaries and benefits, it just continues to restrict our budget even more. Regarding the $4 million, if you that represents 1.3% of our operational budget, and I think it's well within fiscal responsibility to have roughly around 1.3% of your budget identified at this point in the year as being potential unspent revenue. I think that's a pretty well managed budget. I don't take full ownership of it because I didn't create that budget, and the budget we're currently working with, nor did I pass it. But as a new superintendent here, I obviously have to make sure that those dollars are well spent. But I want you to remember, when you talk about 2 pennies or less on a dollar, and say that that's something that's being either misappropriated or not spent well, that's really not a very fair comparison. Last year, I think in surplus, the city moved $5 million into cash capital. So we're talking the same process, but the spotlight, I feel, is on what we're doing, and it's well articulated as good fiscal practice in what you guys are doing. So I think we need to make sure we're having good conversation around. We're trying to do exactly what you said you need to see. Where are those dollars being spent? Are they being spent on something that meets the needs of the school division? Okay, and are we really being specific in how we spend, purposeful in how we spend those dollars? And I think the answer to that question is yes. I think where the dollars came from in past budget cycles was not as clear. But I would dare say the FY20 budget provides that level of detail.
Well, the other thing I was going to ask you is that I suggested last year, you talked about the bus drivers. Well, when I was on school board, we did differential raises. The person making $150,000, 2% of that is a heck of a lot more than the person who's making $15,000 or $25,000. We did differential raises because it made sense. And my last question is, would you as a school board and as a superintendent and administrator consider getting taxing authority so you can raise your own money?
Can I, I'll drive that car, Richard, if you want to. If you want to go with me.
No, if I could just.
I can tell you this, when that came up before, when I was on the school board, it was not money, because they would not get as much money that way. And I think that's what you don't realize.
Yes, I totally understand. And again, I'll be happy to talk to speak specifically to cash capital. I think that this council was very clear when I met with you over the summer that you wanted to know where these dollars were being spent and were they purposely being spent appropriately. And I think and was it excessive and those types of things. I think we can definitely give you some further information regarding that.
The code that really dictates what we always did. I know everybody tried to spend it down, but that the money that is surplus comes back to the city and then is reallocated, which has happened for years.
Well, and that's unspent money by June 30th of each year in accordance with
$4 million
in accordance with the code. Here's the thing that you have to look at when you project. The state still has a fourth quarter allocation of funds, and that's usually built by ADM. So then you also you're still spending your budget. So a projection is just what it is. It's a projection. So the state code requires by June 30th that any money that's unspent in the operational budget revert back to the city, and hopefully we would have a well-articulated spending plan. What I can assure you is in this budget that I'm here meeting with you today, we have identified specifically the maintenance and technology needs that we need, and if we had a surplus beyond those, they would revert back to the city, and we would go through a reversion process.